Chinese cities have worked with European cities on the exchange of best practices, such as in policy, in governance, and in climate resilience. So there is a lot of cooperation going on, and it goes back a long time.
The European Green Deal comprising the Fit for 55 package, setting the new goal of 55% reduction of emissions and the carbon neutrality by 2050. These are all great and absolutely necessary steps.
中欧之间在应对气候变化、推动全球气候治理的进程、实施绿色高质量的这个发展，在这个过程当中有非常大的合作的潜力。
So, Mauro, as you can expect, I'm turning to you first. From your point of view, Mauro, how do you see this cooperation going forward, especially as this dialogue on climate change has been set up between Europe and China?
Good morning, everybody. Look, I think our Chinese friends have made a momentous choice, and they're going to discover that it has consequences beyond what they have imagined, as we are discovering ourselves. I think when less than 2.5 years ago we decided to propose to member states the climate neutrality target, at first we were aware of the consequences and the import of that decision, but we hadn't quite worked out all the consequences and how that affects very, very deeply the way we do policy already today. And I think China will soon discover that. I'm very confident because China has a long tradition of planning for economic activity. So I think they have the machinery in place, they have the instruments. But still, this changes the perspective very, very dramatically. We had to review from scratch our policies for the next few years because we realized that postponing decisions, postponing investment could be very, very dangerous. Now, you asked about cooperation with China, and this is the essence of it. We have a long-standing cooperation with China on climate. We cooperate on long-term analysis, we've cooperated on modeling, we have a very intense cooperation on emission trading. And we are delighted to see how far China has advanced, and we are looking forward to the start of the Chinese emission trading system. It's a gigantic operation. Even in its initial phase, in quantitative terms, it will dwarf the entire market in the European Union. So we're very much looking forward to that. And we have recently proposed to the Chinese cooperation in a whole series of areas, including agriculture and the use of land, because that's what you need to do if you want to address other greenhouse gases than CO2. So we're now working with our Chinese friends to set up the high-level economic, environmental climate dialogue that has been announced by our leaders in September. We're trying to figure out, together with them, how exactly are they going to plan this long-term objective? What are the first steps they're going to take? It's not as if we have lessons to impart on this. We are learning ourselves. I think it would be very helpful if we could learn together. You mentioned the exit of coal. Coal has become uneconomic. Coal will go sooner rather than later. The question is, can we accompany it? Can we make it faster? And can we accompany the people involved? Another areas where we want to cooperate with China is just transition. Again, another complicated subject which none of us has a perfect recipe for, but which is absolutely indispensable. We start from the principle that our success of our venture is based on investment. Investment fundamentally in two things. Investment in innovation, and its faster deployment on the ground, faster deployment in the market, moving on to an economy which is not only cleaner, but more modern, more technologically advanced, more competitive, and investment in solidarity. Investment in people, investment in helping disadvantaged regions, high carbon sectors to change direction, and investing in people, in new skills, in new education. So these are the two axes, and if you look at the general policy of both Europe and China, you will see that these are now not radically new. It's a new way to look at priorities which we've had for a long time. If you think that 2.5 years ago when we proposed it, everybody looked at us as if we were slightly mad. The world can change very, very fast if we help it change. So very happy to be here and looking forward to the discussion with the other panelists.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mauro, for making some important points. Let's turn now to Mr. Li Junfeng. Obviously, a lot of potential for working together, but also really starting to work now for changes that will come later. That's not easy for policymakers and governments to think about tomorrow and start implementing sometimes very difficult policies as of today. Let's hear your point of view, please.
中国和欧盟的合作，可能是从历史上来看，应该是最成功的典范之一。这种合作，这种观念上的影响，对中国能源转型，对中国提高能源效率和发展可再生能源，都有决定性的作用。这是我们回顾历史。那么我们看未来，碳中和这么一个目标，中国现在的煤炭占比超过了50%，现在57点几，煤电占了接近70%，68点几。现在几乎没有任何一个国家像中国在碳中和的路上那么困难。所以说，中国的这个选择会对全球碳中和的这种选择会做出一个很重要的一个推动作用。就正像我们的主席女士所说的，过去碳中和我们只认为是一种愿景，现在碳中和是作为一种行动了，并且这种行动从中央到地方到企业都在讨论这个问题。过去中国的企业在碳中和问题上可以说是漠不关心的，现在开始重视起来了。现在中国有很多企业加入了气候组织发起的 RE100这项工作，并且也在尝试着实现碳中和。说在这些方面，我想欧盟和中国应该更多的合作。当然，我们可能要客观的评价一下碳市场，因为碳它不是一个真正的商品，就是政府决定价格，政府决定配额，它本身就不是一个真正的市场的行为。虽然中国7个试点城市还在继续的做碳市场，但是它对整个减排的贡献，它和节能比起来，和可再生发展比起来，它的效果是十分有限的。就是我们与其说把这些市场机制推得很高，还不如我们在技术领域更多的合作，就是包括我们继续提高能源效率。就我们现在提出来能源总量控制和能源强度控制以及碳强度控制3个控制目标，把它推动能源效率提高，把非化石能的占比这个放在一个很高的位置上。这一个它可能不受碳市场进程的影响，这样可以取得减排的效果。
I'm going to turn to the private sector. I'm going to turn to Bernard Kemper from EEW Energy from Waste. Bernard, your views on how China and Europe can work together to ensure this new climate agenda becomes a reality.
Yes, good morning to Brussels and the EU, and good afternoon to China, and greetings from Berlin from this point. First of all, perhaps let me introduce you to EEW Energy from Waste, because I think it's very important to understand what we are doing and who we are. So EEW is a company which drives 18 plants in Germany, in the Netherlands and Luxembourg, just to incinerate in a first step waste. But to incinerate waste means, on the other side, to generate energy, and this means mostly green energy. we are able to process around more than 5 million tons of waste per year for the energy production, and we dispose it sustainably. This is very important. We heard it this morning from different speakers already. And we make an efficient use of this energy contained in the waste, and we think that the generated energy, and let me give you 3 examples. For example, process steam for industrial plants like chemical plants, like food plants, like paper mills, district heating for the residential areas, or just to generate power for the grids. This means overall a good cooperation between us and all the other energy sectors on a sustainable development, and we expanded it over the last years to a second point, because in Germany and mostly in Europe it's useful and it's needed by laws to dispose, for example, sewage sludge. Sewage sludge can also be burned on the one side, and it could be the recovery of phosphorus on the second side. That means this is pure circular economy at this point of time. A last short point. What is the special issue of EEW regarding European Business Summit? We could be a good model for Europe and also for China. In 2016, we were bought by Beijing Enterprises Holding, and this means this is a long-term strategic partnership to invest in Europe and in sustainable energy recovery. That means to transform European know-how, how to operate these plants and how to generate energy from that. And that means at the end, advanced technologies and environmental protection. So overall, a very good partnership, a good example how we could together make changes in climate protection and safe, decarbonized energies.
Thank you very much for those insights. Let's stay in the private sector. And I'll turn to, actually, I have to say, my old friend, Isbrand Ho, because we've interacted before. And BYD, if I'm not mistaken, is Build Your Dream. At least that's the way I knew it initially. And of course, a lot of emphasis now, Isbrand, on electric vehicles. And if I may say so, you were there first, in a sense. So looking forward, your ideas on how we can work together, Europe and China, in this very important area.
Good morning, Shada. Very good to see you again. Thank you for having me. I think there's already much to be encouraged about. We have seen today there are already a number of ambitious policies already in place. China and Europe are on the right course working together. As a global player in the EV industry, as you have mentioned, and you're absolutely correct, it is Build Your Dream. We support all these policies and initiatives. For example, BYD is actively involved in the Race to Zero initiative in the run-up to the COP26 in Glasgow next year. A lot of people have already mentioned that. BYD is already leading the drive towards a carbon-neutral future. Our quest is to see new energy transport, e-mobility, in towns and cities globally near you. We wish to share our expertise in e-mobility and develop partnerships with stakeholders in Europe, not just using the technology ourselves, but sharing that. For the new energy industry in general, cooperation between businesses, industry, and government, these are the keys to success. Now, opportunities, I see a wide range of opportunities being unlocked as the high-level European environment climate dialogues happening between the EU and the Chinese government. This green cooperation not only allows us to achieve the goals of carbon emission reduction, but will also allow more efficient and beneficial result to everybody. Joint enterprises are already underway too, including the EU-China environmental project. China is concerned about its impact on its own environment. We recognize that there's much to learn from the EU, which already has effective policies and technologies in place. The project will help support successful coordination of environmental issues, promote regulatory convergence between the EU and China, and to undertake policy studies, workshops, and seminars. These are necessary for the close cooperation between big players, that is Europe and China, in tackling the climate changes. And we're very happy that BYD stayed in the loop and be part of that.
From the Institute of Energy Transition and Social Development at Tsinghua University. Professor, your insights, please, after what you've heard so far this morning. Let's listen to you now.
大家可能注意到我办公室后面的很多光伏，告诉大家一个重要的好消息，在中国1000瓦光伏的系统现在的价格已经大概在400欧元左右。在欧洲大陆，大家的安装光伏比较昂贵，这很大程度上是因为安装成本非常的昂贵，而不是光伏组件。2018年，我曾经在中国提出每人1000瓦光伏的倡议。我们构想在2035年，中国能够实现人均1000瓦光伏。那今天我们向欧盟的朋友们发出一个邀请。让我们来进行一个竞赛，我们中国和欧盟国家谁能够更先达到人均1000瓦光伏？我们知道德国现在在欧盟是排名第一的，是600多瓦光伏，他们的计划是2030年将实现1.2千瓦的光伏。也许中国没有办法超越德国这样领先的国家。但是呢，我们仍然希望我们一起来进行这样的一个有意义的竞赛。我的工作的一个很重要的工作是与欧洲的机构合作推进一项绿色标准，的主题是光伏电站的净生态效益标准。中国有很多建设于荒漠地带的光伏电站，已经起到了明显的生态修复效果，植被恢复率明显改善。德国的弗朗霍夫太阳能研究所开展了农业与光伏一体化的科研，实现了农田的复合利用。荷兰建于农田上的光伏电站已经引入了净生态效益的理念和设计规范。我们正在把这些经验和做法整合起来，在联合国防治荒漠化公约组织的指导和协调下，这个组织在德国的波恩，我们正在研发光伏电站全生命周期净生态效益标准。该标准不仅核算光伏电站、光伏组件的碳足迹，还要核算光伏电站的土地植被、土壤有机碳以及生物多样性等生态效益。现在中国和欧洲是全球最大、第一、第二大光伏市场。而中国供应了全世界70%的光伏组件，如果中国和欧盟积极采用这样的一个标准，将引导全球的光伏制造行业和光伏电站行业向更低碳排放甚至负碳排放的方向发展。中欧联合推广光伏电站全生命周期净生态效益标准的行为，能够为非洲、中东等目前尚未明确碳中性目标的国家提供更强的碳减排动力，在建设碳中和世界的进程中发挥重要的领导作用。
Back to business. Let me turn now to Mr. Kjell Stek at Danfoss Group. You've already been mentioned by the professor as having a zero carbon project, but let's hear about what you think is possible in this dialogue between Europe and China going forward.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm sort of carrying two hats today. One is I'm a representative for Danfoss, which is a large Danish industrial company working in the field of energy efficiency basically we are talking about more for less. And then at the same time, I'm chairman for a public-private partnership with our hometown, Sonderborg. I think we should start to look at the fundamentals here and take priority number one for us. That is, we should not use the energy there are no need for. We also call that energy efficiency. Second priority is that the energy that already has been produced, we need to get the most out of. We also call that sector coupling. One example is heat recovery. And the third priority is new energy, of course, has to be made renewable and produced green. And why is that? Because you can say, if you produce new energy green, does it matter how much you use because it's green, but it's not free. And it's clearly, and I would like to demonstrate that in some examples, the most cost-effective and the fastest way to carbon neutrality. We are about to build a new water treatment plant. And here we will take the heat out of the wastewater. That's one thing. We will use the waste, as we just heard from EEW. We'll use the waste in a local bio plant. So here we will convert something with an installation that a municipality typically using 7 to 9% of the energy consumption to clean the water. We'll convert that into a powerhouse, and actually we are foreseeing that can cover 20 to 25% of the heating demand in the city. So what I will summarize this into is almost the 3 I's. The first thing is the word implementation. Keep note of the word innovation. And the last I word I would like to give you today is invitation. I'd like to invite you to our city and come and see what we are doing. Seeing is believing. To see that there is a path through working on the energy efficiency, working on getting the most out of the energy that has already been produced before you put all your eggs in one basket, and that is the renewable energy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. He-Yun. At your university, when you and I were chatting a little bit before this conversation, you said that students, the young people you interact with every day, are also very, very committed to a climate agenda and also very worried about environmental degradation. So the screen's yours.
Good. Well, thank you very much, Shada. And I'm delighted to join in this conversation. I really learned a lot from our previous speakers. Before I turn into the question of students, I just want to say that the previous speakers have brought so much insights and inspirations in terms of the technological, commercial, and also economic and political dimension of your China partnership. I want to actually approach this issue from a slightly different angle, and that is from the angle of traditional culture. How we can really dig into each other's traditional culture to find the inspiration and insights to facilitate this green transformation. And here we are at the European Business Summit, and I know that there is still resistance from certain corners of businesses against mitigation, and the reason is that burning fossil fuels can produce wealth. But what is wealth? And I want to share with you an insight from a traditional Chinese classic, which is the Taiping Jing, the Book of Supreme Peace. And in the book, it says that from the eye of heaven, wealth is not measured by any material goods, but rather it is measured by how many species that walk along with us on this earth. The world is richest when we have many species, and the world is poorest when we have few of them. Now, climate change is bringing in the largest extinction event in the world's history. And it is about to make us a lot poorer, not richer. And burning fossil fuel is about to make us a lot poorer. And this is why we join the Carbon Neutrality Club. And my students care about climate change a lot. And my School of Public Administration at Hunan University will make it mandatory for all the students to take an introduction module on climate policy, because we consider it as the most important public policy issue. And we ask the students to also share with us their experiences. And I remember one student came up to me and said, "You know, teacher, I'm from Beijing, and my parents are from Beijing, and my grandparents are from Beijing." He says her grandma once told him that Beijing has the most pleasant summer, because in Beijing, the hot days, which means temperature of above 35 degrees, is no more than 5 in an old Beijing summer. But he told me that he calculated last year in July, within a week, there were 6 days of temperatures above 35 degrees. And so the students know about climate change, and they care about it. And this is why we should care about it, because we shouldn't deprive them of their future. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for watching this. It's been a fascinating discussion.
Okay, that's a really hot debate. For conclusion, He Yun, can you give us a picture of the role of the China-EU Green Partnership in the global economic recovery, which is for a lot of people, they wish it could be a green recovery?
EU and China makes up about 30% of the global emissions right now. Cooperation between the two countries will have a physical impact to the world's emissions reduction. But more importantly, partnership between the two countries will catalyze a lot of new innovations, new initiatives, and new technologies, which can then be made available for the other countries to use to facilitate this green recovery. And also, there will be a green consensus, because Europe is the largest group of industrialized countries, and China is the largest developing countries. So cooperation between the two can really bridge the gap between the traditional global north and the traditional global south. And so to facilitate this green consensus for recovery.
So you have mentioned that the ideas or techniques may be used in other parts of the globe. So I want to turn to Mr. Ho, because I know that BYD has taken over last year's Fortune Change the World ranking with its vision to help humanity in reducing or eliminating its dependence on non-renewables to create a cleaner, greener planet. So I know that BYD does not only operate in Europe, but also in many parts of the world. So how do you see this kind of vision on the whole picture on the other parts of the world also?
We have understood that action needs to be taken, and there's no other option but to act and change our behaviors. Otherwise, we are jeopardizing, we're compromising the future generation. Electrification has been proven to be the viable, renewable, and sustainable energy solution for long-term e-mobility and broader industries. In China alone, we have delivered almost 900,000 new energy vehicles. Around the world, BYD produced products can be found in more than 300 cities in over 50 countries, including 60,000 e-buses around the world. In Europe, we have sold more than 1,400 e-buses in more than 20 countries and 100 major cities. These figures have resulted in a total of 53 million pure electric kilometers and a reduction of around 58,000 tons of CO2 emissions. We are very proud of these achievements and plan to continue to achieving to the next level.
Thank you, Mr. Ho, and thank you, He Yun. And that's the end of our program. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.